All right, welcome back, crime fighters, for another edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help us make Calhoun County a better and safer place by helping us lock up the bad guys. I'm Chris Wright, along with Chief Deputy John Garlick. Good to see you, John.
Good to see you, Chris.
All right.
Everybody else out there.
Happy birthday, America.
Yes, happy birthday.
It's 4th of July week, and a lot of folks are going to be celebrating, which is a good thing.
It's a very good thing. Lots of hot dogs, hamburgers, cheeseburgers.
But there are a lot of opportunities around the 4th of July for things to go horribly, horribly wrong.
Oh, yes. So you've got cookouts and people being over-beveraged and swimming pools and things that explode.
Yeah.
So, yes, it can be a very dangerous weekend. So we need everybody to be cautious, act responsibly, be careful with those fireworks because they explode.
Yeah. And even if you're doing everything right this 4th of July, you still have to keep a little extra eye out for the other guy, as we always do, but especially on days like this, where you take your family to go watch the fireworks. You have not touched alcohol all day, but other people who are celebrating may have, and they may be behind the wheel and driving at the same time you are leaving the fireworks celebration or whatever. You got to watch out for that. You got to watch out for people that may be shooting things off in your neighborhood and not doing it properly. It's a good time just to situational awareness is a big, big phrase for this time.
Hypervigilance, and you know, if you leave your home to go to the fireworks and you know you have neighbors that are shooting off fireworks, you might want to be careful you don't leave your umbrellas open, things that can, you know, have stuff land on it, catch fire. I watched a guy's boat explode at a fireworks display. He'd gone ashore to eat and some people were shooting off fireworks. They landed on his boat and we all watched as that boat burned to the water line.
Wow.
It was bad. So yeah, be very careful. Very careful.
All right. Let's talk about the good news of the work that our viewers have done this week.
Absolutely. They've got 4 people brought to justice this week and bringing our count to 4,423 people brought to justice, had their cases dealt with, and begin that process.
All right. Well, we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
And welcome to this week's edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted. First up in our lineup this week, Annette Finley. Miss Finley, last known to be living in Weaver. She's wanted for failure to appear on possession of marijuana second. And this is Christopher Fowler. Mr. Fowler, last known to be living in Piedmont. He's wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. And meet Michael Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds, last known to be living in Piedmont. He's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a controlled substance, use and possession of drug paraphernalia, resisting arrest, and attempting to elude. And meet James Hay. Mr. Hay, last known to be living in Jacksonville. He's wanted for failure to appear on theft of property first. And take a look at Gustavo Perez. Mr. Perez, last known to be living in Dalton, Georgia. He's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a controlled substance and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. And last up in the first half of our lineup, Michael Presley. Mr. Presley, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted on bond revocations for possession of a controlled substance and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. And that's it for the first half of our lineup. Stay tuned for our second half later in the show.
All right, we'll have more bad guys for you here in just a little bit, but right now, John, it's time to bring on Jessica from United Way of East Central Alabama.
Hello.
Hey, Jessica.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
We're doing fine.
Good.
Well, I'm doing all right. Chris, a little tense.
Yeah, the summertime, while a lot of folks are taking a little time off and enjoying themselves, relaxing a little bit, at the United Way, y'all are really busy gearing up for some big days, aren't you?
We are gearing up for campaign, for Day of Action, and for our campaign kickoff in August.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about Day of Action, because obviously there are a lot of ways to take action on Day of Action. Tell us a little bit about what Day of Action is and how people can get involved.
So Day of Action will be on Tuesday, August the 20th. It will be at the Oxford Civic Center. And for the past 2 years, we have packaged 50,000 meals that go back to our local food banks and shelters with about 250 volunteers. So this year we're increasing that to 300 volunteers, and we will package the 50,000 meals plus 500 backpacks that will go to our local children in need.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Now, are these meals like asparagus casseroles
They
and
are
such
not.
that kids love?
They are macaroni and cheese and probably oatmeal.
All right.
Oatmeal.
Yes.
So not
Stuff
quite
that
as good as an
kids like.
asparagus casserole, but
I like
still.
maple syrup on my oatmeal.
Yeah.
Do you?
But you're partially Canadian, aren't you?
Yeah, okay.
You seem Canadian to me.
Eh?
It works.
But these meals and backpacks, a lot of us may not realize how important these are. Just as an example, I watch the lineup each week on the show, and I'm thinking, no, I don't know him, haven't seen her. I don't recognize many people at all. Over the years, I've recognized very few people, and I'm thinking, well, part of that's because my life is removed from a lot of the people who are involved in these things, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I've kind of kept myself away from some things that certainly you want to keep yourself out of trouble, but there are parts of our community that I should be more involved in, is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of times we just don't see as much of the need as there is out there in our own community.
Right. And that's why we started using the 50,000 meals. It goes to approximately 15 of our agencies here in Calhoun County, and they will give those meals out within a year, and they're eager for the next day of action to restock that macaroni and cheese and that oatmeal or rice and beans that they can give back. And they're actually packed with protein. They have like a protein powder in them so that they're healthy if that's the only meal that they're eating that day.
And in some cases it will be. That's a sad thought to think of. For a lot of these kids, it won't be the only meal. It'll still be an appreciated meal, but for some of them, yeah, the only meal of the day.
Yeah.
Wow. Now let's talk about the backpacks for a second. What are these? They're packaged up, aren't they?
So they will be the drawstring backpacks that you see many of the kids have today. And this actually came from Designer Smiles, Braces by Benton. When they moved to their new location, they wanted to give back to the community somehow. So they came to us and we started the Stuff the Bus campaign to collect the school supplies for the backpacks that we're going to stuff on Day of Action.
Looking through that list, different things that they need. Obviously for school, they need that notebook paper and their pencils and stuff. Then you got the hand sanitizer, which again is important because kids are trading germs around at school and such, and then they bring that home, and a lot of these families that are receiving these backpacks don't have as easy access to health care as some of us do. So again, the importance of these things gets multiplied.
Yes, everything on there is important to these kids. And to us, like you said, hand sanitizer is not a big deal to us. But if it can prevent those kids from getting sick at school and having to be out of school and miss learning time, then that just creates all sorts of issues.
Yeah, certainly, John, when kids start missing time in school and getting backed up there, that really does snowball in a lot of cases and lead to other problems.
Oh yeah, education is vital, and sometimes these kids, the only contact they have with responsible adults is in school, unfortunately. And schools they fill the parent role, which is a sad thing. That's not what schools need to be doing, but that tends to be what happens.
Right.
And getting back to those meals, again, if that kid is sick and unable to go to school, they're missing out on that meal they get at school, which again may be a lot more important than we realize in their case.
Right. Could be the only meal they get.
Right.
So many reasons why these things are important. We think it's good. On the face of it, we can look at this is good. When you start digging and realizing a little bit more, you see how good and how important it really is. So again, when is this happening?
Day of Action is Tuesday, August the 20th at the Oxford Civic Center. And sign up for that will start on July the 10th.
All right, we need to talk some more. We got to talk about the campaign that's coming up. We will do that in a few minutes. When we come back, we'll also have the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
And welcome to the second half of our lineup. First up this half, Jesse East. Mr. East, last known to be living in East Aboga. He's wanted for probation violation on theft of property third. And this is Carrie Seward. Miss Seward, last known to be living in Lincoln. She's wanted for failure to appear on possession of a controlled substance and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. And meet Matthew Waits. Mr. Waits, last known to be living in Talladega. He's wanted for failure to appear on possession of marijuana second. And this is Timothy Thompson. Mr. Thompson, last known to be living in Bessemer. He's wanted for failure to appear on possession of marijuana second and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. And take a look at Donald Mask. Mr. Mask, last known to be living in Gadsden. He's wanted for child support, the face of a deadbeat dad. And meet Byron Shirley. Mr. Shirley, last known to be living in Vincent, Alabama. He's wanted for failure to appear on theft by deception first. And last up in our lineup this week, Jeannie Smith. Miss Smith, last known to be living in Odenville. She's wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. And that's it for this week's lineup. If you know the whereabouts of these folks, please give us a call at Crime Stoppers. That number, 256-238-1414.
All right, we will have our crazy criminal coming up in just a few minutes. Also, the Crime Stoppers segment of the show, talk about several property crimes that we need your help with. And John, we've had a lot of breaking and entering of vehicles here lately.
Oh yeah, and I guess it happens periodically out of school. Kids are wandering around, but please folks, lock your cars. Take your valuables out of your car and bring them in the house, and then lock your cars. We've had several instances where all these guys are doing is they're just walking in your driveway, and if the door opens, they go in your car. They're not breaking windows or doing, they're just, oh, open door, cool, let's look around. So please, lock your cars, please.
Jessica is with the United Way of East Central Alabama. We were talking about Day of Action and the backpacks and meals that you're preparing for these kids. That's just a small part, and I don't want to say it's a small part, it's one part of what United Way gets involved in. So many different things. I'm on the board with the Right Place, and we were just talking in a board meeting the other day, but we're partnering up with United Way. Because we're going to be partnering with United Way, we're going to be able to accomplish something that we otherwise would not be able to do for this community. So there's so many different ways United Way is making things happen in Calhoun County and throughout East Central Alabama, but can't do it if we don't raise some funds, and we're about to kick off the new campaign.
That's right. Day of Action will actually kick off our campaign. I know years ago we used to do 2 separate events, but we've combined them now just to have that action, have that activity to kick off, like you said, the campaign, so that we engage those people and make the community aware that it is campaign season and we can't do it without their help.
And giving to United Way in a lot of cases is as simple as just checking a box that says, yes, I want to give.
It is. It's super simple through payroll deduction. Many of our companies here in Calhoun County offer that payroll deduction. You can give through cash, check, or you can go to our website and give by credit card.
And some people have specific things that they want to support, and there are ways they can do that too.
They can. We have all of our agencies are broken down into focus areas, whether it be education, health, financial stability, or basic needs. And on our brochure and on our website, you can see which agencies fall into those, as well as agency specific.
The United Way is kind of a big umbrella, and a lot of people don't know all the things that are under that umbrella, and we really don't have time to talk about all of them here today. But what are some of the things that people don't realize? They're surprised a little bit that United Way is able to help provide in this community.
So one of our biggest things that I always like to educate people on is Imagination Library. Through a partnership with the Dollywood Foundation, we are able to provide those books to children here in Calhoun County. We love Dolly, but we wouldn't be able to do it without Dolly, but unfortunately Dolly doesn't fund it here in Calhoun County for us. So United Way is the champion here, and it costs $30 per child per year, which is not a huge cost when you look at it, because you can't go out and buy a book. It breaks down to $2 a book. You can't go to the store and buy a book for $2, especially an age-appropriate book that's getting delivered to their house. So right now we have about 3,000 children enrolled in that program. So if you do the math, that's a huge chunk. But we think it's super important, and having those kids ready for kindergarten just helps them with their overall career and life.
Yeah, John, you got 7 grandkids. You know how
I do.
expensive those kids' books are.
Yes, they are. Even the audio ones that you do.
Yeah. I actually just did a kids book for audio. There's only 4.5 minutes of audio, but the publisher is working on making a nice fancy video out of it and such, and I'm not sure exactly how they're going to distribute that.
That was a glorious 4.5 minutes, though.
Yeah, glorious 4.5 minutes. We'll see when we get the video comes out. But and audiobooks can be great. But there's just nothing quite like having that book in the home that mom or dad sits down and reads to the kid. And actually, I just read where they say it's very helpful if the kids spend some time reading to the family pet.
I like it.
The pet is not going to correct the child's grammar, their reading, or they're just going to pay attention. The dog will sit there, and if you're talking to it, the dog's going to stay there. And the kids get more comfortable and more confident while they're reading their favorite book to the dog. And the parents and teachers are going to handle getting the words right. But just that little event, and it doesn't happen if you don't have that book there for the kid to look at.
And we say all the time, it doesn't matter your socioeconomic level. The books are available to anybody. And even if there's not a parent that sits down with that child and reads to them at night, just the child picking up that book, they eventually start picking up colors and shapes. By the time they get to kindergarten, they know some of their colors and shapes, and they're ready for kindergarten for those teachers to work with them.
That's great. So what's our goal for the campaign this year? Have we announced that yet?
We have not.
Okay. So
We
still
have
got
not.
that little dangle out there. We'll find out when. Is it going to be announced at the kickoff?
Yes, it should be.
All right. So hopefully it'll be a big goal and we'll blast past it. Jessica, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
y'all for having me.
All right. Stay busy this summer. And we will be back in just a moment. We'll have the Crazy Criminal of the Week and our Crime Stoppers segment here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
And welcome to the Crime Stoppers portion of our show, where we ask you to help our investigators with the following cases. On June 21st, an unlawful breaking and entering occurred in a car parked at a residence on Short Street in Oxford. An unknown amount of currency was taken and damage was done to the passenger side door. On June 20th, a car tag was reported stolen from a vehicle at a location on Seven Springs Road in Wellington. And sometime between the hours of 5:30 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon on June 21st, a burglary occurred at this residence on Old Piedmont Gadsden Highway in Piedmont. Damage was done to the front and back doors. On June 21st, a shed was broken into at another residence on Old Piedmont Gadsden Highway in Piedmont. And on June 23rd, a person arrived home on Jamback Road and found the front door standing open. The door sustained damage from a forced entry. And between June 23rd and June 25th, the yard machine riding lawnmower, a weed eater, and ramps were stolen from a shed at a residence on Bernard Couch Drive in Anniston. And sometime on June 25th, 2 Honda four-wheelers were stolen from a barn on Hollingsworth Road in Jacksonville. A stolen Nissan Pathfinder was left on scene. And on June 25th, the breaking and entering of a vehicle occurred at a residence on Noah Valley Road in Jacksonville. The truck sustained 4 broken windows. Items stolen included amps, speakers, and an Alpine radio. And last up on your caseload this week on June 28th, in the area of Charlie Penny Road, Charity Circle, and Dogwood Lane in Piedmont, numerous unlocked vehicles were broken into. Items stolen included wallets, checkbooks, currency, and a backpack with various contents. And that's it for your caseload this week. If you know any information about these crimes, please give us a call at Crime Stoppers. That number 256-238-1414. Remember, we want your information and not your name.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
All right, our crazy criminal today is David Sillers from Ontario, Canada, actually, who got a DUI recently.
Yeah, DUI.
Not in a car or a truck, in a canoe.
In a canoe?
Yeah.
In a canoe, eh?
Yeah. Which actually, a lot of our crazy criminals, we try to bring out things that are funny, and this one really is not, because a lot of times that crime would kind of get overlooked and not noticed. Unfortunately, he had an accident in the canoe and had a child with him, and the child did not survive the accident.
Oh, that's terrible.
It is terrible. So bring that out as a reminder. We're going to have a lot of folks out here on the water here for the 4th and the rest of the summer, and alcohol and boats, whether they're canoes or any other kind of vessel, they just don't mix.
Doesn't work. Your judgment is impaired, your perception is impaired, your restriction, your impulses are impaired, and you'll do stupid stuff. And unfortunately, yeah, it can.
And even as we were talking about earlier, even if you manage to do what you're supposed to do, your reaction is going to be slowed by the alcohol. And if somebody else or just nature provides something unexpected,
Right.
then bad things happen.
Bad things happen. So yeah, be responsible on the 4th with your holiday and everything you do.
All right, so there you go. We appreciate you tuning in. We hope that you have some information to share with us about someone from the lineup or one of those crimes from the Crime Stoppers segment. Again, a lot of people losing items from their car because they left their doors unlocked. Lock up your cars. Don't leave items in there that people want. And then we'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.